everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Sri Talkies. Namaste, Sevaro to everyone who's watching me. Thank you for joining me again. For anyone who's new here, my name is Srijana and I am in Toronto in Canada. I'm a licensed immigration professional and I run my own firm based out of Toronto in Canada. But apart from videos on immigration, I also talk about life in Canada. For anyone who's new here, sort of starting afresh in Canada, hashtag migrant life, and all things fun in Canada. So apart from immigration specific videos, you can also join me for my journey in Canada, and I hope you're going to have fun along with me. Today I was just taking a walk. It's beautiful in Toronto right now. It's fall, so you can see the beautiful fall colors. It's not very cold yet. Winter is definitely it's kind of setting in slowly but surely. But right now I'm trying to be outside as much and soak in as much of the fall colors because it is just beautiful. And one of the advantages of being in Canada is that you get to experience all seasons. So there are distinct seasons, and it's something that I love about Canada. The fact that every season is distinct and you can really feel sort of the seasons changing, and this time of the year is definitely beautiful. So while I was out and about, I thought I would talk about something very important and something that's been in the news lately, which is studying in Canada. I know there are millions of international students coming to Canada each year, and that is a very special journey for a lot of young aspiring students wanting to start their academic life in Canada. Now, it's also a very important journey, and there are a few things to keep in mind because a lot of students have fallen into the trap of wrong institutes, wrong agents, and have their dreams pretty much robbed of them. So today I'm going to talk about some very important things. I will also link a few sort of videos and blogs that talk about how students were scammed in Canada. It happens a lot more than you think it actually does. Very recently, about 4 or 5 institutes in Canada actually claimed that they kind of were going bankrupt, and it brought the lives of students to a complete standstill because what do you do if your institute is bankrupt and files for bankruptcy and it stops classes altogether? So students were left in complete limbo, and to avoid such situations, there are things that you can do before you come to Canada. So make sure you pay heed to this video if you're a student, and pass it to everybody else who wants to come to Canada to study. Now, the first important thing to keep in mind when you want to come to Canada is the selection of the institute. So first thing is that you have to make sure that the institute that you come to is a DLI, which stands for a Designated Learning Institute. So every and any institute in Canada who is allowed to recruit post-secondary international students has a DLI number, which means the immigration department has given them a specific number because they are actually recognized as institutes who can hire international students. So I will link the Government of Canada website below where you can check if your institute is a listed DLI before you actually go ahead with enrolling for their particular courses, etc. So in terms of institutes in Canada, there is a distinct hierarchy. So universities are right on top, followed by polytechnics, which are part government institutes, followed by private colleges. So of course, if you can, and if you have the resources, and if you have, of course, the academic inclination and your academic credentials, it's best if you choose universities, followed by polytechnics, and then private colleges. It's not to say that private colleges are not good, but a majority of the problems that have happened have really lied with private institutes. So universities right on top, polytechnics, private institutes. Now, whenever you are choosing DLIs, make sure you do your own research. Actually, when I was checking Google, there are lots of websites where there are a long list of blacklisted colleges in Canada. I mean, it's sad that such a list exists, and there are multiple such lists, but there are officially blacklisted colleges in Canada that you must absolutely stay away from. But apart from that, make sure that you are clear about which province that you want to go to, and then choose institutes accordingly. So check if your institute is a designated learning institute, and in that it has a official DLI number before you continue on with your research. I will talk about subsequent points, which is once you identify the institute that you want to go to, make sure you've done research on which course. Now there are lots of agencies in India that will tell you about, pursue this course and that course, but it is best if you as a student have a clear idea about the specialization that you would want to choose. So make sure the specialization A lines with everything that you've studied. If you have work experience, that specialization lines in with all of your past academic and work history. But to also make sure that it's an upgrade. So if you've completed your bachelor's in Canada or in your home country, make sure that the course that you're choosing in Canada is either a postgraduate diploma or a specialized diploma program, so that it shows some kind of an academic progression. That's very, very important. The other thing to remember, and one that is important for students in South Asia in particular, is that you focus on your IELTs program or your IELTs score. So make sure before you actually start your process that you have an academic IELTS score. Now you might ask me, what is a good academic IELTS score? Anything 7 and above is considered good. So your overall academic IELTS score, if it's 7 and above, you have really good chances of getting into good institutes, good programs in Canada. So make sure you focus on preparing for IELTS and that you have a credible IELTS score before you start your admissions process in Canada. The next point to focus on would also be your SOP, or what we call a statement of purpose. So make sure that you do your own work in preparing an SOP. Of course, you can get help to refine that SOP, or someone who can polish it up for you, but make sure you are sort of laying all of the foundations of your SOP and charting out why you want to come to Canada, why you've chosen the particular course, and what you intend to do in the future. I think these are the basics of an SOP, and every student wanting to come to Canada should know all of these. So make sure you are penning down your SOP and putting in the building blocks, why you want to come here, how that particular course is going to help you, and what you intend to do in the future with the help of that particular course. So an SOP is extremely important. Make sure you focus on it. The other point, of course, to remember is finances or funds. It's very, very important to start planning well in advance. Now, there are a lot of blacklisted agencies, particularly in India, where agents were actually giving students bank statements that weren't theirs, and students had no idea. So this also goes back to why you should only work with credible agencies, or also read, their online reviews or go to their Facebook pages, etc. Because it's a very important journey, and you don't necessarily need professional help. But if you are enrolling the services of a particular consultancy or agent in India, it's important to vet them and to know that you are working with credible agencies and institutions that have your best interest in mind. So whenever you are planning for finances, please plan ahead. It's always advisable to make sure that you paid your 1-year tuition in full and also have what is known as a GIC account in Canada. A GIC is a guaranteed investment certificate. It's pretty much like a savings account in India. So it's a savings account that you can open with Canadian banks or banks in your home country that are allowed to provide these services to students coming to Canada. So what you do is, once you open a GIC account or a savings account in Canada, you deposit the entire year's living expense into that account. So pretty much about $10,000 for the year you deposit in your GIC account, and when you come to Canada, they're going to drip feed small amounts every month into your account. So this makes sure that your living expenses amount is locked in and that you're not going to end up with sort of no money, having used that money elsewhere. So 1-year tuition in full and your GIC account of $10,000 locked in. Now, I often get a question about what happens if you're going to bring your spouse or dependent children, etc. So for every person who joins you as a student, you will have to account for additional living expenses. So pretty much about $5,000 for every dependent who wants to come to you is what we are going to add, and that's your rough ballpark for how much money you need. So these are some of the common points that you have to keep in mind if you are planning to come to Canada to study. It's a very sort of murky, there's a cesspool of really bad agencies out there and a lot of private institutes that have fallen into disrepute in Canada, so make sure you're checking well. Recently there were lots of colleges that were blacklisted. There was CCSQ College, there was M College, CDE College. These colleges are no longer allowed to enroll international students, or even if they do, the degree or the diploma that you get at the end of it is worth nothing. It's worth absolutely nothing. So it is a waste of money, and plus once you're here, you're jeopardizing your life here, because you can neither work as an international student because you're not considered a legal international student. So make sure you've done research into choosing your institute, your course, that you've done enough preparation for IELTs, planning for your finances, etc. And then in the next video, I can cover on the important points once you're here in Canada, and the factors that you should consider, or the things to first do when you land in Canada as a student. So with this video, I hope I've been able to enlighten you with some of the important things that you should consider if you're wanting to come here, and that I have inspired you to do your own research and to work only with trusted agencies, consultants, etc. So in the next video, I'll shed more light on life in Canada, and I hope this video has genuinely been of help to you. Thank you guys for staying with me, and I will see you guys in the next one. And I hope you enjoyed all of the fall colors. So thank you for being a part of this walk with me. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.